In the shadow of Mount Kilimanjaro, young Maasai girl Amara embarks on a daring solo hunt for the last sacred leopard, unaware that her journey will lead her to discover her true self and the magic of the mountain. Today, she would embark on the most daring adventure of her life, a solo hunt for the last sacred leopard, a creature both revered and feared. But little did she know, this journey would lead her not just to the leopard, but deep into the heart of herself, where courage, friendship, and the magic of the mountain await. Are you ready to join Amara as she uncovers the secrets of the wild and discovers what it truly means to be a protector? Please, if you have not subscribed to this channel, please kindly subscribe so it will help us in a long way to bring you more of such story. Thank you. Now let's continue. Amara stood at the edge of the village, gazing up at the towering Mount Kilimanjaro. Her heart raced as she remembered the stories her grandmother used to tell about the sacred leopards that once roamed those heights. Now, only one remained, the last leopard, and it was up to Amara to find it. She tightened the grip on her spear, a gift from her father, and whispered, "I'm going to catch that leopard." Everyone in the village thought it was madness, a solo hunt, at her age. But Amara knew that this was more than just a hunt. It was a rite of passage. The mountain called to her, and deep down, she knew she couldn't ignore it any longer. Amara took a deep breath and started her journey toward the mountain, unaware that her adventure would be far stranger than she could ever imagine. The forest at the base of Kilimanjaro was alive with sound. Monkeys chattered, birds sang, and the rustle of leaves told Amara she was not alone. Every step she took felt like it was being watched, but by whom or what, she wasn't sure. As she trekked through the underbrush, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was just around the corner. Her mind raced with possibilities. Was it the leopard, a spirit, or just her imagination playing tricks on her? Suddenly a voice called out, "Why are you stomping like a warthog in the mud?" Amara froze and looked around, but no one was there. "Up here, girl," came the voice again. Amara looked up to see a small, bright-colored bird perched on a branch, glaring at her with tiny but fierce eyes. "Yes, you," the bird chirped. "You're hunting a leopard, are you? Good luck with that." Amara blinked in surprise. "A talking bird? Who are you?" Amara demanded, trying to mask her shock. It wasn't every day a bird started talking to you. The bird fluffed its feathers indignantly. "Who am I? I'm Nia, guardian of these skies. And you, little one, are stomping all over my territory." Amara raised an eyebrow. "I'm not little." Nia clicked her beak. "Well, compared to me, maybe not. But compared to that leopard you're hunting, you're practically a speck of dust." Amara couldn't help but grin. This bird was sassy, but she liked it. "All right, Nia, any advice for me, since you know so much about the mountain?" Nia tilted her head, thinking, "Oh, I know plenty. Like, don't step in the mud pools up ahead unless you want to smell like a buffalo for the next week." Amara rolled her eyes. "Thanks. And," Nia added with a wink, "don't trust the spirits. They can be tricksy." As they continued up the mountain, the wind began to pick up. It wasn't an ordinary wind. It carried voices. Amara shivered, feeling the hairs on the back of her neck stand up. "Can you hear that?" she asked Nia. Nia flapped her wings irritably. "Of course I hear it. Those are the spirits I told you about. Always gossiping, never saying anything useful." Amara stopped walking for a moment, listening. The wind whispered her name, drawing her forward. "Amara, Amara." "Okay, that's definitely creepy," she muttered. The trees seemed to sway with laughter, and the ground beneath her feet felt alive. But Amara wasn't scared. She knew the spirits liked to test people, but she wasn't going to back down. "I'm not turning around," she said firmly, stepping forward. "Good luck with that," Nia chirped sarcastic. The last person who said that got turned into a tree. The higher Amara climbed, the steeper the path became. Nia had gone silent, which made Amara uneasy. Usually the bird had something witty to say. Suddenly, a massive boulder rolled down the path, narrowly missing Amara. "That was close," she gasped, her heart racing. Nia came from above. "The mountain's testing you, girl. It wants to know if you're worthy." Amara wiped the sweat from her brow and gripped her spear tighter. "I won't let a rock stop me." She looked up at the mountain's peak, now partially hidden by clouds. It seemed farther than ever, but Amara wasn't one to give up, not with the last leopard waiting for her. After hours of climbing, Amara and Nia reached a fast-flowing river. The water was crystal clear, but it rushed with a force that made crossing impossible. "How are we supposed to get across?" Amara asked, eyeing the water nervously. Nia perched on a nearby rock, preening her feathers. "Oh, this is nothing. Just call on the spirit of the river, but, don't annoy it." Amara raised an eyebrow. "The spirit of the river?" Nia nodded. "Yes, and trust me, it's got a temper. Just ask nicely. Maybe flatter it a little." Amara rolled her eyes but knelt by the water. "Spirit of the river," she began. "You are, really strong and fast. The water rippled, and suddenly, a figure rose from the river, a tall, shimmering spirit with flowing water for hair. Flattery will get you far, child, the spirit said with a grin. But what do you want? Amara stood up, trying not to look as surprised as she felt. I need to cross the river. The spirit tilted its head. And why should I let you? Because, Amara said, thinking quickly, I'm hunting the last leopard of Mount Kilimanjaro, and if I don't catch it, the balance of the mountain will be lost. The water parted, revealing a path of dry stones leading across the river. Go quickly, the spirit said. The river won't stay still for long. Safely across the river, Amara and Nia continued their climb. The air grew thinner, and the trees became sparse as they neared the upper slopes of Kilimanjaro. Almost there, Nia said, landing on Amara's shoulder. But watch out. The mountain's got one last test before you reach the leopard. Just as Nia finished speaking, a shadowy figure appeared in front of them. A spirit, tall and slender, with a mischievous grin. Going somewhere, little hunter? The spirit asked, floating just above the ground. Its voice was smooth and playful, like someone telling a joke only they understood. Amara tightened her grip on her spear. Who are you? The spirit twirled in the air. Oh, just a friend. Or maybe an enemy. Who can say? Amara frowned. I don't have time for games. I need to find the leopard. The spirit grinned wider. Oh, but I love games. Let's play a riddle. Solve it, and I'll let you pass. Fail, and, well, let's just say you won't be climbing any further. Amara sighed. Fine. What's the riddle? As they ascended further, the landscape became more surreal. Twisted trees with silver bark lined the path, their branches swaying as if they were alive. One tree in particular caught Amara's attention. It had a face. Don't look at me like that, the tree grumbled as she passed by. I've seen plenty of hunters before, but you're the smallest. Amara blinked. You're a talking tree? The tree huffed. Of course I'm a talking tree. This is Kilimanjaro after all. What did you expect? A normal tree. Amara glanced at Nia, who was shaking with silent laughter. Ignore him, Nia whispered. He's been stuck here for centuries and loves to complain. I heard that, the tree snapped. If I had legs, I'd leave this mountain. But no, I'm stuck here with birds that think they're clever. Amara smiled. Well, maybe I'll find a way to free you someday. But for now, I've got a leopard to find. The tree snorted. Good luck with that. You'll need it. The spirit clapped its hands in delight. What has no beginning, no end, and yet surrounds us all? Amara thought for a moment, her mind racing. Finally, she smiled. The answer is the sky. The spirit pouted. Oh, you're no fun. Fine, you may pass. But remember, the mountain isn't done with you yet. The spirit considered this for a moment, then waved its hand. As Amara and Nia reached a flat plateau near the summit, a sound echoed through the air. A deep, resonating roar. Amara's heart leapt. That's it! The leopard! Nia nodded, her feathers ruffling. That's no ordinary leopard, you know. It's a spirit as much as it is flesh. Be careful. Amara crouched low, her spear ready as she followed the sound. The air grew colder, and the snow underfoot crunched with each step. Suddenly, a pair of golden eyes appeared in the shadows ahead, watching her. The last sacred leopard of Mount Kilimanjaro. Amara held her breath as the leopard stepped into the light. Its coat shimmered like silver in the moonlight, and its eyes gleamed with ancient wisdom. The beast was larger than any leopard Amara had ever seen, its muscles rippling beneath its fur as it moved with silent grace. For a moment, the leopard simply stared at her, as if sizing her up. Amara slowly raised her spear but didn't move any closer. She wasn't here to hurt the leopard. She was here to prove herself. The leopard's eyes narrowed and a low growl rumbled from its throat. I think it's testing you, Nia whispered, fluttering nervously on Amara's shoulder. Maybe try not poking it with the sharp end of that spear. Amara lowered her weapon slightly, keeping her gaze locked with the leopard's. I'm not your enemy, she whispered softly. I'm here for a different reason. The leopard blinked, its growl fading. It tilted its head slightly as if curious. Then without warning, it turned and disappeared into the trees. Amara watched the leopard vanish into the forest, its paw prints clear in the snow. She felt a strange pull in her heart, urging her to follow. Are you really going after it? Nia asked, her wings twitching nervously. Amara nodded. I have to. I feel like it's leading me somewhere. Nia sighed dramatically. Fine, but if we get eaten, I'm haunting you forever. Amara smiled, and together they followed the leopard's tracks, weaving through the trees. The path was difficult, the snow deeper than before, but Amara pressed on. The forest was eerily quiet, save for the crunch of snow beneath their feet. Amara had the odd feeling that the trees were watching them, their branches swaying in time with her steps. Suddenly, the tracks stopped at the edge of a cliff, overlooking a vast, snowy valley. In the distance, the leopard sat, its tail flicking as it watched her approach. "This feels like a trap," Nia muttered, eyeing the leopard warily. Amara shook her head. "Number, it's waiting for..." Amara stood at the edge of the cliff, staring down into the valley below. The distance was dizzying, and her heart pounded in her chest. The leopard stared back at her from across the gap, its golden eyes glowing in the moon. It was clear. If she wanted to continue, she would have to jump. Nia landed on her shoulder, her feathers fluffed up. "I hope you know what you're doing, because I certainly don't." Amara swallowed hard. "I don't really have a choice, do I?" She took a deep breath, tightening her grip on her spear. Then, without giving herself time to think, she sprinted toward the edge of the cliff and leaped. The air rushed past her, the ground a blur beneath her feet. For a moment, it felt like she was flying. Then, with a thud, she landed on the other side, rolling in the snow. Amara groaned and sat up, shaking off the snow. The leopard, sitting calmly nearby, blinked at her, almost as if it was impressed. "Not bad," Nia chirped from above. "For someone without wings, anyway." The leopard led Amara to the entrance of a cave hidden deep within the mountain. The opening was small, but the air that flowed from it was warm and smelled of something ancient, something powerful. "This is it," Amara whispered, her heart pounding with anticipation. The leopard stepped aside, gesturing with its head for her to enter. Amara hesitated for only a moment before ducking inside, her spear held tightly in her hand. The cave was surprisingly spacious, the walls lined with glowing crystals that cast a soft light across the room. In the center of the cave was a large stone altar, and above it, carved into the rock, was the image of a great leopard, much like the one that had led her here. "This must be a sacred place," Amara murmured, stepping forward. Nia perched on her shoulder, looking around with wide eyes. "I'd say so. I feel strange, like there's magic in the air." Amara nodded. She could feel it too. The air was thick with energy, and the ground beneath her feet seemed to hum with life. As Amara approached the altar, a gust of wind swept through the cave, carrying with it the whispers of the mountain spirits. "Amara, prove your worth!" The voice echoed all around her, and suddenly the cave grew colder. Shadows began to swirl, and from them, 3 figures emerged. Spirits, each with glowing eyes and flowing robes made of mist. "You have come far," one spirit said, "but to catch the leopard, you must pass our test." Amara squared her shoulders, trying not to let fear show. "What's the test?" Another spirit, its voice deep and resonant, stepped forward. "A test of heart, to prove you understand the balance of the mountain." The third spirit floated closer. "Answer wisely, or your journey will end here." Amara stood firm as the 3 spirits circled her, their glowing eyes fixed on her every move. Nia shifted nervously on her shoulder, but stayed silent. The first spirit, tall and thin with shimmering robes of mist, spoke first. "Tell us, child of the Maasai, what does the leopard represent on this mountain?" Amara took a deep breath, thinking carefully. "The leopard is more than just an animal. It's part of the mountain itself. It represents strength, agility, and the spirit of Kilimanjaro. If the leopard is lost, a part of the mountain's soul is lost too." The spirit nodded slowly, as if satisfied. The second spirit, broader and more imposing, stepped forward. "What would you do if you caught the leopard? Would you claim it as your prize or let it go free?" Amara hesitated, her heart pounding. I came to prove myself, but now I see that capturing the leopard isn't the answer. It's about understanding its role. I would let it go, because the mountain needs the leopard to survive." The third spirit, its voice softer and more ethereal, floated closer. "And finally, what would you sacrifice to keep the balance of the mountain?" Amara felt a lump in her throat, but she answered truthfully. "Anything, even my life, if it meant protecting the mountain and all that lives on it." The spirits paused, exchanging glances. Then as one, they bowed their heads. "You have passed the test," they said in unison. "The mountain has found you worthy." As the spirits faded back into the mist, the cave grew quiet once more. But before they vanished completely, one of the spirits raised its hand. "You have proven yourself, Amara. As a reward, we give you a gift." From the spirit's hand, a small object began to materialize, an amulet, glowing faintly with a soft golden light. The shape of a leopard was carved into the stone, its eyes sparkling like stars. "This amulet holds the power of the mountain," the spirit said. "It will guide you on your journey and protect you from harm." Amara stepped forward and accepted the amulet, feeling its warmth in her hand. "Thank you," she whispered, bowing her head. The spirit smiled before disappearing entirely, leaving only a faint whisper of wind in their wake. Nia fluttered down from Amara's shoulder to get a closer look. "Ooh, shiny, so what does it do?" Amara smiled, slipping the amulet around her neck. "I guess we'll find out." With the amulet now hanging around her neck, Amara felt a newfound sense of purpose. But as she stepped out of the cave and back into the cold, snowy landscape, a thick fog rolled in, enveloping the mountain. Nia squawked nervously. I don't like this. Fog means trouble. Big, spooky, mysterious trouble. Amara shivered as the temperature dropped even further. We have to keep going, she said, her eyes scanning the white haze ahead. The leopard is close. I can feel it. But as they moved forward, the fog seemed to grow thicker, the landscape around them becoming harder to navigate. The trees took on strange shapes, and shadows danced in the mist, creating the illusion of figures moving just beyond their sight. Amara, do you see that? Nia whispered, her voice trembling. Amara squinted, her heart skipping a beat. I see it. We're not alone. Out of the fog, shadowy figures began to take shape. Spirits, but these were different, darker, more menacing. The shadowy figures moved closer, their forms flickering in and out of view like ghosts. They seemed to whisper as they approached, their voices low and unintelligible. Nia landed on Amara's shoulder, her eyes wide with fear. These aren't the friendly kind of spirits, are they? Amara shook her head, her hand tightening around the spear. Number, there's something else. One of the dark spirits floated forward, its eyes glowing with malice. You don't belong here, child of the living, it hissed. Turn back now, or be lost in the fog forever. Amara stood her ground, clutching the amulet. I can't. I've come too far to turn back. The spirit laughed, a cold, hollow sound. Then you will face the wrath of the mountains forgotten. Just as the dark spirits began to close in, the amulet around Amara's neck started to glow brighter, pulsing with a warm, golden light. The spirits recoiled, hissing in pain as the light grew stronger. Amara held the amulet high, and with a burst of light, the dark spirits vanished into the fog, their whispers fading into the distance. Nia let out a relieved sigh. Well, that was terrifying. Let's not do that again, okay? As the fog began to lift, Amara found herself standing at the base of Kilimanjaro's highest peak. The air was thin, and the wind howled around her, but she could feel the energy of the mountain pulsing beneath her feet. This is it, Nia said, her voice filled with awe. We're at the heart of the mountain. Ahead of them, the final path to the summit was steep and treacherous, the rocks slick with ice and snow. But at the very top, Amara could see a faint glow. Something was waiting for her up there. The leopard, she whispered, her heart pounding with anticipation. She began the final ascent, her hands and feet gripping the icy rocks as she climbed higher and higher. The wind whipped at her face and the cold bit at her skin, but she pushed forward, driven by a force she couldn't explain. Nia flew beside her, encouraging her with little chirps of support. Almost there, just a little farther. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Amara pulled herself over the edge and onto the summit of Mount Kilimanjaro. And there, standing majestically against the backdrop of the rising sun, was the last sacred leopard. Amara and the leopard locked eyes once again, the air between them thick with tension. This was the moment she had been preparing for. But now that she was here, she wasn't sure what to do. The leopard stepped forward, its powerful muscles rippling beneath its silver coat. It circled her slowly, as if studying her, testing her resolve. You've come a long way, Nia whispered, perched on a nearby rock. But what now? Do you capture it, or let it go? Amara's heart raced. She had come to prove herself, but now she understood that capturing the leopard wasn't the way. The spirits had shown her that balance was more important than victory. The leopard stopped in front of her, its golden eyes piercing into her soul. Amara slowly knelt down, lowering her spear in a gesture of peace. I don't want to capture you, she said softly. I came to understand, to protect you. The mountain needs you, and I see that now. The leopard blinked, and for a moment, Amara could have sworn she saw a spark of approval in its eyes. Then with a graceful leap, the leopard bounded away, disappearing into the snowy wilderness. Amara watched it go, a sense of peace washing over her. She had completed her journey, not by capturing the leopard, but by understanding its place in the... As the sacred leopard vanished into the wilderness, Amara stood up slowly, her body feeling lighter than it had in days. The journey had been long and difficult, but it was clear now that capturing the leopard had never been the true goal. Nia flapped down to her shoulder, still watching the spot where the leopard had disappeared. So, you're just letting it go? She asked, her voice filled with wonder. Amara nodded. It's not about capturing it. The mountain needs the leopard, and so do I. We're both part of something bigger. Nia cocked her head. Wow, deep thoughts for someone who just jumped off a cliff. Amara laughed, her breath visible in the cold air. Let's go home, Nia. But as they began their descent down the mountain, a strange sound echoed from the distance. It was the same low growl she had heard before. Turning around, Amara saw the sacred leopard again, this time standing at the edge of the summit, watching her. The leopard dipped its head as if acknowledging her decision before disappearing once more into the mountain. Amara smiled, her heart swelling with a sense of understanding. The journey down the mountain was no less challenging than the ascent. The fog thickened once again, and the icy winds whipped through the air, stinging Amara's skin. But now something felt different, almost as if the mountain itself was guiding her home. "You think the spirits are still watching us?" Nia asked, her voice slightly muffled by the cold wind. Amara nodded. "I think they'll always be watching, but we've proven ourselves to them. They won't stop us now." As if in response, the fog parted slightly, revealing the path ahead. But instead of the dark, twisted trees they had seen earlier, the forest seemed softer, more welcoming. Amara glanced at Nia. "Looks like we've been given a free pass." Nia puffed out her chest. "Obviously, we're pretty impressive." They continued down the path, the landscape gradually becoming clearer. The spirits had tested Amara, and now they were guiding her back to the world she had left behind. As Amara neared the base of the mountain, she could see her village in the distance, nestled among the plains. The sight of home filled her with warmth, but also a hint of nervousness. She had left to prove herself, to catch the sacred.
What would the others say when they saw she returned empty-handed? Nia fluttered around her, as excited as ever. "Bet everyone's gonna throw a big party when they see you. You know, banners, music, probably lots of food, mostly for me, of course." Amara chuckled. "I'm not so sure. They were expecting me to come back with proof of the leopard." Nia landed on her shoulder and gave her a playful nudge. "You've got something better than proof. You've got the whole mountain's respect." Amara smiled, her heart lightening. She had faced the spirits, followed the leopard, and come to understand her place in the world. That was more valuable than any trophy. As Amara entered the village, she was greeted with cheers and warm embraces. Her family rushed forward to meet her, their faces filled with relief and pride. "You've returned?" her mother cried, wrapping her arms around Amara. "We were so worried." Amara smiled, holding her mother close. "I'm fine, Mama. The mountain was challenging, but I'm fine." Her father approached, his expression stern, but his eyes soft. "And the leopard?" he asked, his voice calm. Amara paused, glancing at Nia, who gave her an encouraging nod. "I didn't capture the leopard," she said slowly, "but I learned something far more important. The leopard belongs to the mountain, and so do we. It's not ours to take." There was a moment of silence, but then her father smiled, a rare and genuine smile. "You've grown, Amara, more than I ever imagined." The village elder stepped forward, nodding in agreement. "You've returned with wisdom, not just victory. That is the true mark of a warrior." As they approached the village, she could see people gathering, waiting for her return. That night, a great fire was lit in the center of the village, and the people gathered around to hear Amara's story. She sat with the elders, recounting every detail of her journey, the spirits, the trials, and her final encounter with the sacred leopard. The villagers listened with wide eyes, gasping and laughing at all the right moments. Even Nia chimed in with her own humorous commentary, earning a few laughs from the children. "And then," Nia said dramatically, "I swooped in to save the day, scaring off those spooky spirits with my amazing feathers. You should have seen it." Amara rolled her eyes playfully. "Yes, Nia was very brave." The elder raised his hand for silence. "Amara, your story teaches us an important lesson. It is not always the catch that proves our strength, but the journey and the wisdom we gain along the way." Amara nodded, feeling the truth of his words. "The mountain taught me that everything is connected. The leopard, the spirits, even us. We must protect that balance." As the night wore on, the village began to wind down, and the people slowly returned to their homes. Amara sat by the fire, staring into the glowing embers, lost in thought. Suddenly she felt a presence nearby. Turning her head, she saw something. In the distance, a pair of glowing golden eyes watching her from the edge of the village. The sacred leopard. Amara stood, her heart racing, but this time she didn't feel fear. Instead, she felt a deep connection to the creature. The leopard stepped forward, its sleek form illuminated by the firelight. It dipped its head as if offering her a silent message before turning and disappearing into the night. Nia, perched on a nearby post, whispered, "I think that's its way of saying thank you." Amara smiled, her heart swelling with pride and understanding. The mountain had given her more than she could ever have imagined. The next morning, Amara woke up to find the village already bustling with activity. News of her return had spread, and everyone wanted to hear more about her journey. But before she could leave her hut, the village elder appeared at her door. "Amara," he said in a low voice, "we must speak." Amara felt a twinge of nervousness. Had she done something wrong? She followed the elder to his hut, where he motioned for her to sit. "You have returned with the wisdom of the mountain," he began, "and with that comes responsibility. The spirits of Mount Kilimanjaro have chosen you to be our protector, not just of the village, but of the balance between man and nature." Amara blinked in surprise. "Protector? But I'm only one person." The elder chuckled softly. "True, but you have the strength of the mountain in you now, and you are not alone. The spirits will guide you, and your feathered friend seems quite capable as well." Naya, who had been eavesdropping from outside, puffed out her chest proudly. "You hear that? I'm quite capable." Amara couldn't help but smile. "So what must I do?" "You will lead us," the elder said. "Teach the villagers what you have learned, and when the time comes, you will face the challenges that the mountain places before us. We will follow your guidance." Amara nodded, the weight of the responsibility settling on her shoulders. She had started this journey to prove herself, but now she realized that it was just the beginning of a much larger role. In the days that followed, Amara embraced her new role as the village protector. She gathered the children and young warriors, teaching them about the spirits of the mountain, the importance of balance, and the sacred bond between nature and their people. Nia, of course, was always by her side, adding her own dramatic flair to the lessons. And then there was this huge spirit, taller than the tallest tree, and I, being the fearless bird that I am, scared it off with just a flap of my wings, she would say, much to the amusement of the children. Amara would roll her eyes but let Nia have her fun. The children were more engaged than ever, and the stories, even the exaggerated ones, helped them understand the importance of protecting the natural world. The village began to change. People started to respect the animals and plants around them in new ways, seeing them as part of the same delicate balance that Amara had learned about on her journey. One evening, as the sun set over the plains, Amara stood at the edge of the village, watching as a group of young warriors practiced the techniques she had taught them. Nia perched on her shoulder, watching too. "You've done well," Nia said quietly. "The village is different now, and it's because of you." Amara smiled, feeling a sense of accomplishment. "It's because of all of us. We're stronger together." But just as life in the village seemed to settle into its new rhythm, an ominous sign appeared. One morning, a hunter came rushing back to the village, his face pale and his voice trembling. "There's something in the forest," he gasped. "It's not natural." Amara's heart skipped a beat. She had learned to trust the signs of the mountain, and this sounded like trouble. She quickly gathered her spear and set out with Nia to investigate. As they ventured deeper into the forest, the air grew colder, and a thick fog began to settle around them. The trees seemed twisted and unnaturally dark, their branches swaying as if alive. "I don't like this," Nia whispered, her feathers puffed up. "This is bad, really bad." Amara tightened her grip on her spear, her senses on high alert. They were not alone. Suddenly, a low growl echoed through the fog. Amara spun around, her heart pounding. Out of the mist stepped a creature she had never seen before, massive, with dark, shadowy fur and glowing red eyes. It moved with unnatural speed and grace, circling them as if it was hunting them. Nia squawked in fear. "Amara, that's no leopard. What do we do?" Amara swallowed hard, her instincts telling her to run, but she knew she had to face this threat. The mountain had taught her to trust in herself, and now she would need that strength more than ever. The creature lunged at Amara with a speed that took her breath away. She barely had time to raise her spear before it was upon her. But just as its dark claws swiped through the air, a familiar roar echoed through the forest. Out of nowhere, the sacred leopard appeared, its silver coat shimmering even in the dim light of the forest. With a powerful leap, it intercepted the shadow creature, knocking it off balance. Amara watched in awe as the leopard fought the creature, their movements a blur of speed and power. She could feel the mountain's presence all around her, as if it was lending strength to the sacred leopard. "Nia!" Amara shouted. "We need to help!" Nia, despite her fear, flew into action, dive-bombing the creature's eyes with a flurry of feathers. The distraction was just enough to give Amara a chance. She thrust her spear forward, striking the shadow creature in its side. With a final, ear-piercing screech, the creature dissolved into the mist, leaving nothing but silence behind. Amara dropped to her knees, exhausted. The sacred leopard stood before her, breathing heavily but unharmed. For a moment, their eyes met, and Amara felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude and respect. The leopard dipped its head once more, a final gesture of understanding, before disappearing back into the forest, leaving Amara and Nia alone in the quiet woods. Amara's journey up Mount Kilimanjaro wasn't about capturing the sacred leopard, but about understanding the deeper connection between humans and nature. She learned that true strength lies in respecting the balance of life, not in conquering it. By listening to the spirits of the mountain and facing her fears, Amara discovered that wisdom, courage, and harmony are far more important than personal glory. In the end, she returns to her village not as a hunter, but as a protector. Someone who understands the need to preserve the delicate relationship between her people and the natural world.